Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on February 12th, 2012. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get right to it. First off, we have been working on touch events, and we're going to get back to that in just a moment. But before we do, there have been a lot of great comments on some of the earlier episodes, and I want to bring those in real quick. First off, David Molin has been doing a lot of great work on creating a watch script for Jake. And the way this works is that when you run it like this, whenever you change a file, say here, and press save, that will automatically run your script and your Jake file. And that is incredibly useful for people who are, it's just incredibly useful. When you can put your command prompt next to your code editor, then it's really nice to be able to just glance back and forth. I'm probably not going to use it in this show because we just don't have enough screen real estate for that to be practical. But if you're following along at home, check out the AutoJake script. I took David's stuff and I tweaked it a little bit, and I've checked it into the repository. The way you run it is just with node AutoJake. So take a look at that, play with it a little bit. If you're running on Windows, you'll need to modify the command here, but it's pretty straightforward. So thank you very much, David, for mentioning that and doing all the work on making that work. The next thing I want to mention is that Daniel Auger, and again, I apologize for butchering your name if I've gotten that wrong, Daniel. He is using a pre-release version of Node, and he found that the Jake version checker that we're using doesn't work with that. So I made a little change to the version manager regex to look for the dash on the end or the end of the version string, and that would be compatible with the dash pre. Now, I could have just left off that dash or $ entirely, but that would mean that the code, if some other version string comes along that doesn't work with this regex, the code wouldn't necessarily fail. This will means that it works with only the ones we know about and will fail otherwise. And as I've mentioned before, I prefer my code to fail fast. So that's what's going on there. So thank you, Daniel, for bringing that up. And anybody curious about that can look in episode 16 for that information. So now, let's get back to the Apple Touch events. We've finished in the last episode spiking the touch events, and now we're ready to start test driving them. So that's what I'd like to get going in this episode. So let's go ahead and bring this up. So here we have all of our tests, and they are focused on mouse moves. Now what I'd like to do is get us some touch events going. Now, as a reminder, there are 4 types of touch events we can use: touch start, touch move, touch end, and touch cancel. And we're going to want to handle all of these, but let's start out fairly slow. I suspect, I haven't tried this yet, but I suspect we are going to run into some problems with cross-browser support with touch events. So let's see how that goes. Let's go ahead and we have this describe line drawing. Let's change this to say describe mouse events and make a new describe that says describe touch events. And as a reminder, the describes in Mocha are really organizing structures. They also give you some output, useful output, but really they're organizing structures. Now, it's my opinion that when your tests get too big enough to need organizing structures like this, that's actually a code smell. It's a sign of a problem with your design. You might be trying to do too much. So that's something I think we should keep an eye on in the future. Is our client test doing too much? Do we need to factor out a new module or class? I don't know. That's something we definitely want to look at. So let's just make sure everything's still working. It is. Now, in our mouse events, we have it setting up our div before each mouse event test. We're going to want to use that for our touch events as well. So let's just put that there. And that means we can take this out, Again, this is just setting up our drawing area div. Okay, everything still works. All right, let's get the touch events going. So let's change this to touch events. And then I think I'd like to start out with just the basics. It should, well, it should draw lines in response to basic touch events. That's the most important thing to start with. And following the pattern of what we've done before, what I'd like to do is say touch start at a particular location, let's say 90, 200. Let's just keep those numbers small in case we want to, for some reason, change the size of the thing in the future. So we'll touch start, and then we'll touch move, I think. Let's see, it's touch start, touch move, and touch end, and touch cancel. So yeah, touch start, touch move to 5, 20, and then touch end at 5, 20. And then we should expect the line segments to equal ten, 40, 520. Okay. We also need to handle the case where a touch event is canceled. In my experimentation on the real iPad, it looks like touch events are canceled when an alert box has popped up, for example. So we definitely need to handle that. We need to handle the case of multiple touches. And there's probably other stuff that we need to do as well. But let's just focus on getting this first touch event working. I suspect this one's going to be the hardest. So I'm going to write some functions just like this. Just like our mouse events, I'm going to say touch start, relative x, relative y, optional element, and then send touch event, touch start, etc., etc., etc. And now let's steal our send mouse event call it send touch event, and this is going to be a bit trickier because jQuery doesn't support touch events. And also we need to handle the case where browsers that don't understand touch events are supported as well. So, I'm not sure how I want to deal with that. Let's just start by being really, really simple. Let's go ahead and implement touch move and touch end. And let's just implement them pretty much blindly in the same way that we're implementing them now. And just see what happens. So we've got that. And if I run Jake, okay, we're getting a failure. Presumably because we're not handling the touch event. Yeah, we got nothing, and we're expecting this. You know, I really wish Mocha would turn these around like classic TDD frameworks do, which usually say expected this but got that. Every time I see expected blank, I think, oh, we expected nothing. But no, we got nothing, and our expectation was actually this. Anyway, that's a minor quibble. It's not Mocha though, it's expect.js. So anyway, now we need to get this to work properly. Now, I'm pretty sure I could get this to work by just handling the touch events like this. I think we could say drawing area dot on touch start, and basically do exactly this. Oh, that's what we need to do. We need to prevent defaults. Sorry about that. Just didn't want to forget it. Okay, so we could just basically grab all of the existing code. Obviously, there's a lot of duplication here, and we don't want to do that. But just to get started, and I'll bet you this will even work. By work, I mean I bet you it'll pass the test. But I don't think it will work for real. Okay, so let's see if that passes the test. No, it didn't even pass the test. That's interesting. Why not? Okay, so we're setting up drawing area, touch start, touch move, touch end. We're passing in, oh. Duh. Yeah, I think I've said this before, but again, the reason I do TDD is because I am far from perfect. TDD allows me to get away with, well, being kind of dumb. So anyway, there's our stuff working. The problem is I am pretty confident that this is not actually going to work for real. If we were to HTTP serve our, let's see, our client directory, and then visit that in our iPad, yeah, there's nothing happening on there. So this is a really important point, actually. We can make our tests pass, but we aren't really simulating we're not really doing touch events, we're simulating it. So we have to be really careful that our simulation in the test works the same way or as close to the same way as a real person's events would. And that's kind of the trick with this code, is that it is a simulation. It's not real. And so we have to be cautious about that. Okay, so at any rate, based on our spike, what we really need to do is send a touch event rather than a jQuery event. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I would kind of like to do the jQuery element.trigger. So maybe what we need to do is say event data.original event equals new touch event. What will happen if we do that? So what happens if we run this? Actually, I think this will fail because we're not. Okay. So that didn't fail for the reason I expected. It failed lint because touch event isn't defined. We have to do that up here. Let's try again. Okay, touch event is undefined. And also the iPad didn't run at all because we were running on the right page. So let's connect that back up and see. I don't care that it doesn't work on the other browsers, but I want to see if it's going to work on iPad. It also doesn't work on the iPad. All right, I'm going to check into this. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I haven't figured this out yet, but what I have done is I've brought this up in the iPhone version of the simulator, just so you can see iOS Safari here. For some reason, this reports as a Mac, and when we run it as an iPad. That's probably just an error in Testacular. At any rate, this shows up as touch event is undefined on all the other browsers, but here it says it's not a constructor. So I'm going to keep researching this, but we are on the right track here. Okay, I'm back. So I figured this out. I needed to use document.createEvent, something I've never actually run into before because I've just always used the jQuery approach. Document.createEvent is the sort of underlying way you do this. And we pass in the name of the class that we want to create the event for. Now, I hope I'm doing this right, but my research shows that so far I am. And when I'm running this, and then of course we call a init touch event on that, and we don't have to pass all the parameters through, it seems. So, and when I do that, everything still fails except iOS Safari. That succeeds. So that's where we're going to pick up next time. We've got the beginnings of creating a touch event. I don't know if it's actually created correctly. It only works on iOS. So next time, what we're going to look at is how do we make sure that this works properly on other browsers. So next time is make touch events tests work on all browsers. And maybe we just stub them out. And then, of course, we're going to get first basic touch event test to pass, and then we will continue with other touch event behaviors. So That's what we're going to pick up with next time. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. I will catch you next time.